Die gaat aan.
Oh, ja.
En dan moeten we altijd eventjes...
Maar lijkt een beetje...
Zo doen.
Want?
Wat lijkt hij?
Hij lijkt een beetje...
Nee, hij staat er goed op.
Jawel.
Ja, maar dat...
Ja, meer zo. Ja, nou is hij weg.
Ja, ben je happy nu? Oké. You're the talent, hè? Zo werkt dat dan.
Oh, ik heb het voor het zeggen. Ik kan nog invloed hebben op het script en alles.
Je bent de enige die invloed heeft op het script.
Ja, ik ben de enige. Ja, je maakt het script.
Ik zit hier maar. En in English, please.
In English, please.
Yes, if that's okay.
Yeah, I have a session and I speak English.
Not a problem. Daar heb je allemaal tools voor, hè? Dat is echt, je kan de-essen, namelijk zelfs
English,
in audio. Dat je de S'jes uit de audio haalt.
My name is Oshi.
Oké, er is 1 vraag.
Jij mag Nederlands spreken en ik moet Engels, oké.
Ja, want dit komt niet op het filmpje.
So
There's one question.
Here I am doing my best.
Namely, how is it to be you? And we'll have 1 hour. And there are only a few rules, namely that please don't be silent for longer than 5 minutes. And please don't repeat yourself over and over again. And we'll go from there.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Just to share with you what happens when you ask the questions you do, is when you put these conditions up front, it just stops the natural flow of information. So
Okay.
I immediately think, okay, there's conditions, I cannot be spontaneous, I cannot...
Okay.
Because part of my mind is now paying attention to not doing what you say you don't want me to be doing.
Okay.
I would suggest better have people just start, and if they repeat themselves, simply say, how could you say that differently?
Okay, good. I will.
Right?
Yeah.
Just go with the flow there.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to where I thought I was, where it was easy to just say yes to the interview. How it is to be me. There's 2 ways, I feel 2 ways that I can answer that. So one is going into the being case, the personal. In that sense I would say I'm a lucky bloke. I've always been sort of a happy person, right? So what it feels to be me is overall happy, joyful, cheerful, having a positive outlook in life, being excited about things that are going on and happening, and appreciating the little things. So, but that's sheer luck. That's how you are born, right? And it's only lucky from that same perspective, because I can only imagine how it would be not to have that, and it is not a pretty sight, right? Okay, so that's how it is to be me from a personal perspective. But the prominent answer to the question is something that I cannot actually. I can speak to you about it, but I don't have a preconceived answer. There's nothing that I can go to from the past or from an idea. I have to really go there, be there, and then describe what's going on. And that part of being me is the one that really is giving meaning to life for me. So in that sense, how is it to be me? Is an hour is probably not going to be enough. You would have to stay with me for the rest of my life, and then and then there will be moments of sharing, right? Mm-hmm. So the first part is actually not so interesting for me. So the how it is to be me, talking about me, the identity, the person case, is that's almost like the interface that I put on when working with dealing with other people. because you know if you are not able to show that interface and to share on that personal level, it's going to be hard for people to relate to you, right? Because normally I feel where we as humans live and exist is in that social space where the social commonalities are what we look for in order to know whether or not we want to be with people, whether we can trust people, how to put them in perspective and then decide how to deal with that. But it's that whole process where that is going on, where there's the other part, the awareness of that, where this is this endless curiosity as how that manifests. And that's where I would say I am when not in a social context. And there's no end to the flowering and the blossoming and the discoveries and the it's not even surprises, but yeah, no preconceived ideas, just new all the time, new. So that, yeah, I would say if I were to have to choose between one or the other, that's where I would speak from. That's how it is to be me. How it is to be me is to be constantly aware of how that identity case is manifesting, is creating problems where there are none, but once created they become real, where there's the awareness of how other people work in that same way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but the whole context is one of it only works because it hasn't proven not to work yet. And from that awareness of that's actually what is common to all of us, but it is not what the thing that identification happens with. That I don't know where I was going with this sentence, but the weird thing is there's nothing there that you can call your own. There's just a realization all the time of that is what becomes your own. If you lose sight of how these things manifest, then the content becomes the reality, and that reality then is you. And there is a side to it that you identify with as coming from you, from the body, but it's just the identification, because in essence it is, if you really look at it, even if you look at thoughts which you call your own, you can never know what the next thought is going to be. There's just no way. It's really a nice exercise to even try to imagine what the next thought is going to be without thinking it. Because if you think it and then tell yourself that that's what you were going to think, then you're kidding yourself, because the thought appears and then you identify with it, and that's always after the fact. But even the idea of turning that around itself becomes a complete impossibility. So, and that tells you that there is actually no one doing the thinking, that there's thoughts happening, and then there is a thought that tells you that you're the one who's doing the thinking. And it's also a thought, but it's always after the fact. So in that sense, it is even from that awareness, from that undeniable space, it is clear that there is no such thing as a real identity. But strangely enough, it feels like it's real, and that hasn't changed. So there's still case, and there's still all those responses to things in the past, and there's clear patterns in how they are. And as I told you, in my case, those patterns are positive, and they're loving life, and they're exploring, and they're eager even to find the pitfalls in that identity and enjoy almost the discoveries that you do there. So it's genuinely enjoyable for me to recognize my own failures in the moment, not as a thought, but as a realization. I crave that. I love that. But that's character. That's something I cannot take responsibility for that. That's just how it happens to be. And I see how different it can be, and I also see that fundamentally there's no difference. It's just it manifests different, but it's all the same thing. It's all patterns emerging in a certain way, and consciousness of that. Well, pretty complicated maybe, but yeah, it's undeniable how it is to be me. So yeah, maybe a good thing also, because sometimes I personally at least hear other people speak from that same recognition, and I have a distinction there. So I notice that there's that the moment that these words are spoken, if they cause like a feeling of inadequacy in other, like a feeling of not being up to that standard, or not recognizing that very thing that's in at least with that same clarity, and therefore the comparison starts. That if that happens, I really feel that people are not coming from a genuine place, right? So I want to make very clear that although I speak from this, at the same time there's a lot of insecurities, and there is a lot of moments where there's depression, unhappiness, there is complete loss of purpose, there is comparison, and normally the comparison means that I compare unfavorably to others, or there's like in the passion and success and aliveness of other people, there is also this feeling of me not being good enough, right? So all that is also there. The beauty of what it is like to be me, and that is not the identity me, but what it is like to be a me, is that if you realize that all these things happen, and that they do not speak about the you, they just speak about how it is to be you, which makes your question so beautiful. That then somehow the judgment part of it, although it can still arise, no longer determines the reality value, or the truth value of the content of what appears. So it is almost like these things are happening, but there's no clinging to any of these things as being true. And therefore they are both true and not true, so they're actually seen for what they are, namely manifestations, happenings, appearances. And that I when anybody says that changes, I think they're full of shit. I think that is an idea about self that is trying to prove itself valid or true, and that is it's contradicting everything that I experience what it's like to be me. So having said that, yes, although I recognize positive traits in my character, and that my normal habitual patterns are to look at the glass as half full and not half empty, that in itself doesn't mean that I do not experience glass as half empty, or that I do not sometimes look at other people's lives and experience like jealousy or envy or whatever. The beauty of it is that all those negative and positive emotions are manifestations that are aware, and as such aren't judged, but are allowed. And I would almost say when there's still issues with manifestation, like when people are unable to let go of their perceived truth, where I suggest to people not just to allow, but even to embrace, to go in the direction of where the resistance is. Because in that way, whatever comes into consciousness is dealt with, and that's not personal. That's just the way it works. So the way we keep problems in existence is by avoiding the consequences that they have for us in our minds. So not doing that is what this differentiates what it is like to be me, probably from what other people could say. But we all have access to that same way of what it is like to be me. Sometimes you just need to go in the direction of what you find is being resisted, to go to that same space. And what could change probably is that more or less the need to literally make that decision to go against the current is less and less necessary to live in that space. But fundamentally there is no difference. That's my my experience. Yeah. So it's a lifelong exploration. It's a beautiful journey, and not always pleasant. Yeah. What else can I sort of speak around a little bit more, because for me that's sort of the picture.
That's 15 minutes.
You want 45 more minutes of material.
You're the guinea pig, so.
I am the guinea pig.
You're a big talker, so if you can't talk for an hour, then maybe you should change the format a bit.
Oh, I can talk more, but that would just be more of the same in a different manner, right? Maybe what we could still see is like, so what is it like to be me around?
Themes, you mean?
Yeah, themes.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe bringing like cards of love or fear or parents or
exactly.
something like that.
Yeah, future.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, good.
Yeah?
Yeah?
Yeah, because future was the first word that came out.
Future.
Okay, so what is it being? So that is especially in the present context very interesting, because as I was for the second time diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's cancer, cancer of lymphoma. What happens, and the first time it happened like over 15 years ago, it was actually like a shock to my system, because when you're told you got like a deadly disease and nobody tells you anything but, well, this is it, and actually the surgeon who told me, yeah, you got non-Hodgkin's, and I said, so what is non-Hodgkin's? And he says, I don't have time to explain that, you'd have to ask somebody else. So I, at the time, went to the internet, I typed in non-Hodgkin's, and everything told me that if I was lucky, 5 years, right? And I was in the midst of my life, I was 34 years old or something, and that just ended all the perspective that I had of a future and everything. And what you would expect, or at least with hindsight, I would have expected, is that puts you in like a black hole. Exactly the opposite happened. So what happened for me is like, wow, so I don't have to do this anymore, I don't have to, everything that was like something I was struggling in and was trying to achieve, and all the burdens that were associated with that, all the hard labor and all the you need to in order to, they all dropped, and that put me in a new state. I never knew that state. I just remember thinking, wow, I've never known happiness, and if happiness exists, this is it. And still gets me emotional. It's interesting. And it took about 2.5 weeks for the oncologist at the time to convince me that in my case I wasn't going to die, and 5 years was the minimum perspective, that actually the likelihood of me surviving this indefinitely was going to be more than 95%. Whatever that means as an individual, right? So the weirdest thing happened, because you would expect, okay, great, so now you found this bliss, this happiness, and you get your life back. Now you're ready, you're done, that's it. You're happy for the rest of your life. But what actually happened is, the moment I believed the doctor, I lost that state of happiness. It's gone. And I wasn't prepared for this. I was educated in business, and I was running an advertising agency, and I was working, having the career and the boat and the house and the cars and everything. And so at that moment I realized that there's only one thing important in life is living that truth, that happiness. And obviously my life up till then wasn't bringing that. So I decided to do everything in my power to get back to that happiness without needing to die for it, right? So that's what I did for 2.5, 3 years, and I've been living that way slowly but surely, in that clarity, building a future again without depending on it. So I got the car, and I got the boat, and the camper van, and I got it all again. But I could lose it in a second and not be bothered, right? Because there's nothing real about the future, it's just a projection. So now the second time, the cancer come back, and so now there's not even the idea that there is such a thing as a future, because it just can change just like that. And there's a challenge there, because with the clarity and the clear ability to help people deal with their limited identity, with their limited experience of how it is to be them, there's almost what is the word? An aspiration to have that mean something in the world. And there's constantly the clear understanding as well that as such is not true, it's not real, it's not that's just a concept. But I cannot deny that the pull of such a role is there. And it's interesting to see how that also becomes a trap if you start believing in it. But at the same time, it's also an opportunity if you can find a channel or a way to express it that is not causing dependency in other people, and at the same time allows for the expression of life in accordance with how it is to be me. And that's been a search. Actually, I don't think you'll ever be done with that, but that's been a search for the last 15 years. And in my case, I've come to accept that I will not be the person who creates the structures in which that becomes valuable, but that I am somebody who is very not the word is not excited, it's almost like fulfillment happens when I can play a role in structures set up by other people. So it's weird. I can do my thing in a business context, or talking to you on a question created by yourself, right? I very much enjoy filling in the blank, right? And currently a colleague of mine is come up with an idea for software, where the whole idea is that you help people get to clarity through questions. And he's got the whole vision, it's all his, and when it comes down to the actual questions around subjects that will help people create more clarity, I just sit down and I see these things emerge, and it's just beautiful to see what quality comes out. And once it's done, it's done. There's no idea of ownership or no idea of me. There's just joy in what's been produced and how it all comes together, structure and content and creativity. So, yeah. What is it like to be me in terms of future? A curious, attentiveness as to how that flowers and opens and changes as it goes, and so for years I've used the definition of vision, which is a future state you can live ahead of its completion. And that's materializing in when it comes to the future. It's already happening, and there's just curiosity as to what the specifics will be, but they don't change the experience already, here and now. So, yeah. Love. I love. I love love. I love just enjoying the very different manifestations of life. I love obstinate people. I love difficult and grumpy people. Oh man, I just do it. Oh, I love them. I love happy people. I love people when they're confused. I love the genuine expressions of and I realize that if there's something about love, like I'm speaking about people, because what is there not to love in anything that's not humans, right? So the real challenge is the ability to love people. That's for me, especially. What is there not to love other than what you do not understand of yourself? So the other way around, if there's the sense of non-loving, then I love non-loving, because not being able to see how I love somebody in a certain circumstance is telling me what part of myself it is that I am avoiding. So even when I don't love people, I love them for the fact that I cannot love them. It's just the way. So what does it mean? What is it like to be me? It's a challenge. It's an exploration. It's a joy. And it's a growing. It's a growing reality. It just gets bigger and bigger. There are hardly any circumstances where love is not abundant. Yeah. Yes. What else?
Fear.
Fear. I did a set of questions for the Socrates search app yesterday on fear. Fear always has a specific subject, it seems, right? So we always attach fear to something. And so that as an awareness makes fear a rare occasion. Sometimes in my reality, sometimes there's fear, but only as long as there's not the realization that there is fear. The moment the realization is there, it's also clear how it manifests, and that ends the fear part of it. So and that manifestation, how it is for me, that there's always a specific image connected to the fear, and the image is I would almost say believed to be true, or it is not recognized to be just that, an image or a thought, or actually a thought connected to a feeling, which makes it very real. And if you're not able to distinguish the two, then fear exists. So for me, fear, as much as the inability to love, are the doorways to new discovery. Yeah. And the discoveries themselves are always surprising, because many of those discoveries hit on something that you imagined were no longer an active part of your confusion. Yeah. Yes. So yes, fears exist, but they're never big enough to become everything. So they're always part of what manifests, and yeah, that's what it's like to be me. Yeah. So what is it like to be me around Linda? Oh, yeah, I was the director, right?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Joy is the word. So there's joy in being around Linda, and the joy has everything to do with the undeniable growing momentum of not individually, but uniquely sourced development. Yeah. So the thing is that I remember meeting Linda and seeing a person with an immense heart and energy and passion to make a difference, without any inclination as to what it means to be self in that. So there were a lot of ideas and a lot of convictions and a lot of well-intended operational excellences. that just almost aimlessly was trying to make the difference, right? And then the beautiful moment of the decision of allowing the possibility that all of that was worthless, that all of that had no value whatsoever, and then allowing that to be the starting point of something new without knowing where that would lead, and then to see from where that was and all the confusion that causes and all the determination not to let the confusion have you deviate from the possibility of discovering something new, and then to see where you come and to find you coming back with a question that is just brilliant. Just brilliant, bringing it down to such a simple and powerful focus. That is, that fills my heart with joy and misplaced pride. Because you've been out of touch with me long enough for me to not be able to believe that I had anything to do with it.
That's not true though.
Oh, it might not be true, but at least for me, it's obvious that although there has been a role, that the product of your creativity is yours and yours alone, right? So that is beautiful, and that's what makes life with others worthwhile for me, is to see that same independence, I would almost say, or interdependence, but freedom to create without any causality, without any. There is not even an explanation for it. There's just the manifestation of something new directions, which completely align with everything that cannot be denied already. So it's just that's the flowering, the blossoming of life. It's great. It's great to see that. So yes, that's what it's like to be me around you. Yeah. Mm. What else?
Body.
Body.
Mm-hmm.
I would say what it's like to be me around body is looking for the word. So the overall thing is love affair, but I'm looking for the. It's not premature, but it's in the early stages. So it's still in the discovery phase. So for me, the whole development has been coming from mental, being forced on the body, stepping out of it again, losing the contact in mental, and then slowly but surely finding my way back to body. So that's sort of how it is to be me around the body. But already by now it's clear that body is nothing is worth anything without body. So it's already that clear, and it's very very. There's almost a feeling of a shame or guilt almost around it, that it's almost too easy. So the moment you have that connection with body, actually you don't need anything else anymore, and that's a bit scary, because if you don't need anything else anymore, so what's that gonna mean? So because I don't need anybody. I just need body, not nobody in particular. Yeah. So in that sense, it almost feels like you're cheating. Cheating is a better word, not guilt or shame, but cheating. It feels like cheating. It feels like it's so easy to be instantly happy, and it requires nothing. That's what it's like for me to be around the body. Yeah. It's sort of like it's the prize that you carry with you wherever you go. And I can see how people get addicted to that, yeah. But there's so much else as well. So it's, as long as it isn't exclusive, it's fine with me, yeah. What's it like for me to be sitting here in the sun? Ooh. I'm gonna be happy to be able to open the windows after the video is stopped. How much more time do we speak?
We're now at 38 minutes.
38?
Yes.
I'm not gonna make an hour.
No, it's long, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm gonna cut it down to 30 minutes.
Yes.
Unless you feel a certain topic needs to be.
No, it's really weird not to have a question, so you're talking in space, right?
Yeah.
So the question does create a certain structure, but not enough to hold the space.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in my case, if there's not a real question, then yeah, what's the use of talking? You know, talking takes you away from the what it is like to be you. So, or me in this case. Yeah. What it's like to be me now is just curiosity, see where this goes and how it's going to. So there's no, when speaking, there is no image of self. So there is also the curiosity to see how that manifests in the eyes of others. So watching the video later on will mean I am watching myself as another, right? Not being able to influence the stream of words, and just to get an impression of how that sounds. And again, a great opportunity to see where I confuse myself. Huh? Yeah. So thank you for the questions.
Yeah, thank you for the answers.
Yeah, you're welcome. Now that's a first. Yay!